We are live. We are live. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this Rebel Outpost college football channel. Please hit the $, make a comment, and I will get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome into the studio that sits on the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend in the chat room with your comments and with your phone calls later in the show. Welcome, 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 everybody. It's going to be a crazy week. It's going to be a crazy week. The third week in May, 2024, the college sports world. And what we're interested here on this college football YouTube channel, the college football world is about to change. And I don't know if we're ready for it. I don't know if we are ready for it. I don't know if the leaders are ready for it. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time. Now, you can, with your super chats, with your phone calls, with your comments. You can spend a lot of time on the settlement today. You can do that. I'm just going to touch a little bit upon it. You know, we went pretty hard late last week on all the reporting that what this settlement's going to look like, the payback on the damages for the House versus NCAA, what the salary cap's going to look like. We went hard on it. We're gonna touch upon it a little bit because there are some in the college sports world that is pushing back. The Big East commissioner, which is a big one, pushing back on the numbers, the percentages of who's going to pay what in the damages going forward. And I happen to agree with Ackerman, the commissioner of the Big East, and others. I think the Power 4 schools, heck, I think the Big Ten and the SEC should be paying more than anybody. And they are, but they should be paying more than the ACC and the Big 12 schools. The title of this show is The Rich Are Getting Richer Faster. In the Big Ten, the SEC, revenue numbers are about to explode. I know you all know this. I know you do. You're members of the show. You watch this show. We've been talking about it for years. Reality's hitting. It's the fuel. It is the fuel. The straw that is stirring the drink is the student athletes about to get paid directly from the university. That has been the straw that has been stirring the drink. But the fuel, the gasoline that is getting poured on everything, and we're about to light the match, it's the growing revenue gap between the Big Ten, the SEC, and everybody else. That's the fuel. Florida State and Clemson are in the courts. They're going to try to get into the Big Ten or the SEC. And the growing money gap is the fuel. We're going to go through a little bit of what Mike Alford said, the athletic director, today on an interview. Basically, he said exactly that. The money gap is growing. It's only going to get worse. In a Florida State, an amended complaint today, basically it says, Florida State says, we're going to go through a Matt Baker article. Florida State basically is saying this. Either we got to give up our well-gotten gains. In other words, either we've got to give up on the idea of competing at the highest level of college sports, which we've been doing for decades, or we got to withdraw. We got to get out of the ACC. And that leaves us no choice. But we got to get out of the ACC. So we're going to talk about the money gap today. We got the the revenues. Some of the revenues are being reported today. ACC, Big Ten. We got the SEC a couple months ago. In the revenue numbers, I mean, they don't even take... I've been trying to figure this out. And you guys know I'm not the brightest bulb in the refrigerator, but I know where every refrigerator is located in every room I go into or every location that I go into, but I'm not the brightest bulb. I've been trying to figure it out. You know, the Big Ten revenue numbers that were revealed today doesn't take in account the revenue of their first media deal. Now, they're already receiving that money, but it's not in their latest report. It lags a year. Okay? The reports of this spring goes to June 30th of 2023. July 1st of 2022. July 1st of 2022, June 30th of 2023, whatever your revenue of your conference made in your schools, that is what's reported in the spring of 2024. So next spring, you're going to see the numbers skyrocket for the Big Ten in 2025. In the spring of 2026, you're going to see the SEC numbers skyrocket. And I believe, we don't know this for sure, but I believe the SEC numbers are going to top the Big Ten numbers in about 2028, 2029. The numbers, but the schools, the conference, has been receiving the extra money since July 1st of 2023. It's just not in this report. It's going to be in the next spring. And of course, the SEC new media contract, which is massive, that starts July 1st of this year. So we're going to be seeing it in the spring of 2026, those numbers. And I believe the Big Ten numbers that we're going to see in the spring of 2025, which are going to be massive, are not going to have the conference football playoff revenue, the new revenue numbers, as part of those numbers. Neither will the ACC, neither will the Big 12, neither will the SEC. So what I think we're going to see in the spring of 2026, when it's going to include all the college football playoff new revenue of 20-some million per each Big Ten school and the new media deal, in the 2026 numbers, each Big Ten school is going to be making over $100 million in conference payouts. And then in 2027, every SEC team is going to be well over $100 million in conference payouts, because it will include all their media, the new media money, and the new college football playoff revenue. So why am I bringing that up? Well, we're going to go through a report that came out today on the revenues. And it's, when you look at the numbers, my first reaction is, and of course we knew this was coming, is of course Florida State is in the courts. Of course Clemson is. Of course North Carolina wants it to happen. Of course. The risk is so low to try to do something. The risk isn't in trying to do something. The risk is not doing something. And I gotta say this. There is a report out there. I don't know who this person is. Some radio report. We can go over a little bit of it. I know a lot of you are interested in it. I think a lot of you still believe it can happen. And you can speculate. You can call me. You can make comments in the chat room. And we can talk about it. I know a lot of people believe in this. It's starting to come back around again. How maybe the ACC, the top 8 brands, will come together and they'll dissolve the conference. And we've been saying here at Peek Around the Corner, we don't think that's going to happen. We've given you the reasons why. It's more litigation. Florida State and Clemson already, we don't think it's going to happen. But a lot of people disagree with PATC, and that is okay. If you're going to go down this route, if that dissolution theory is still alive, in many people's minds it is. We don't think it is, but in a lot of people's minds, people believe it is. First of all, Clemson and Florida State have to get over the fact that the other schools kind of gave Jim Phillips the okay to sue them. Okay, they can get over that, no question about it. You're going to have to do this pretty quickly. These 8 schools, or 7 plus the Magnificent 7 plus another school, are going to have to get together quickly and start making phone calls and get this organized, ready to get their legal counsels to sign off on it. Okay. You're also going to have to believe that you can win this litigation pretty quickly, you're willing to go through the battle in the courts on this. Because, of course, the ACC, of course, Wake Forest, Boston College, Syracuse, Duke, a lot of these schools are going to be like, yeah, let's take these guys to court. Oh, obviously. And even if you believe that you can coordinate this, even if you believe that Clemson and Florida State would want to do this, even if you believe that you can win it and quickly and what have you, there's one more thing you've got to believe for this dissolution theory to be still percolating in your mind. And that is, even if you do everything and you've achieved everything, you've dissolved the league, you've gotten your grant rights back, the courts make a quick decision, you've dissolved the league, there is no gore, and you've got 8 schools in the ACC. Let's say it's the Magnificent Seven and throw in Louisville. Or Georgia Tech, whatever you want to do. Or Pittsburgh, whatever you want that A school to be. Or you can have a 10 conference school. Have Louisville, Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh rounded out. Whatever you want to do. Now there's one more thing you've got to achieve. And that is to have a media contract that is worth the risk of doing everything that you just accomplished. You got to be able to get a media contract that's not the growing gap between the SEC and the Big Ten versus what you've just created. I still don't even think you can get that contract. I still don't think that is another hurdle. Yeah, will you be making more than the current ACC conference? Sure. But is it going to be enough to solve the issues of Florida State, Clemson? I don't think so. I don't think so, but you can tell me that I'm wrong later in the show. We're going to be covering that. We've got a lot to get to. We got the Florida State amended complaint. Matt Baker's article on that. I tell you, we've got like 5-6 stories that we're going to hammer out here during the monologue, and then we're going to quickly get to your phone calls. I want to say thank you to Jimmy. Jimmy, thanks so much for your gifted membership. Holy smokes. Jimmy comes out. Jimmy, you are hereby granted Cloak and Dagger Knighted once again. Thank you so very much. And Joaquin Morales, you are hereby knighted Cloak and Dagger yourself. Please say thank you to Jimmy for his generosity. Thank you, Jimmy. I do appreciate it. Let me get to everybody here. A lot of people here at the start of a Monday, late afternoon, early evening for some of you. Live show, PATCGT is first. Thomas is here. Nick Borden, Dark Moon, Clemson alumnus. Bruce Harris is in the house. Kyle Visser, Houston Cougar is in the house. Chief Fan, Matt Neeson, the Cyclone, Caleb, Ramirez, Steven, Vit, Heartbreak 25, the Georgia Bulldog, Don Struggs is in the house. The Big Lubbock, a lot of Texas Tech Red Raider fans going after me in my direct messages in the last 8 hours. A lot of Dallas TCU fans, a lot of people coming after me. Dallas Mavericks versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, Western Conference Finals. Holy smokes. Very interesting series. The Dallas Mavericks improved themselves before the trade deadline. They got a little bit more ingredients there to play with. I don't know. It's going to be a very difficult series indeed. And of course, the Denver won. Minnesota and Denver. Denver ran out of gas. If they wouldn't have ran out of gas, they would have won the series. Now, part of the reasons they ran out of gas because they don't have a bench, and Minnesota kept going after them and after them and after them. Denver had the higher skill set. I think Dallas has the higher skill set than Minnesota. But if Minnesota's going to win this against Dallas, they're going to have to, it's going to have to be all out. It's 7-game series. I think it could go either way. That is my first take on it. Joaquin Morales, thank you so much for coming on in. Randy Taylor, Cameron B, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, Florida Man, he's in the house. Chad Bracey, Mr. Monkey Says, another Rock Chalk Jayhawk. MGC Sooners checking in. Keith is here. Mr. Terrapin is here. Settlement week. Well, it has to happen. It has to happen. Now we're getting some pushback led by the Big East Commissioner, and I don't blame her one bit. I do not blame her one bit. It's got to get done. It has to get done. Even though I don't think it solves all the issues. But I think they got to get it done. Larry, the GM, is here. John Grove, Bill G, Expedition, Greg, Mr. Hurricane, Rock and Rant is in the house. Michael Batts, Ricky's here. Nick is here. Go Black 45. Hooded Ninja 4 is in the house. Humbo Bumbo Duck. Holy smokes. Immaculate is in the house. Congo is here. Lego Gators, thank you for coming on in. Tracy FSU Gold Nose is in the house. Marketex is here. RFR Mac. I think revenue may kill college football. May kill my college football. Forty Canes is in the house. Morris Simmons is here. Bo Weevil. This buffoon is in the house. Mr. Ed Wayner. Hello, sir. Go Houston Cougars. Mick Stevens. NCAA Men's Tennis National Champions, the TCU Horned Frogs. Congratulations. Congratulations, Mrs. Arkansas Razorback. Jamie Thornton is in the house. Danielle's in the house. Lee is here. Penn State. The Board of Trustees votes to approve a $700 million stadium renovation tomorrow. We might be covering that on an episode, early Pete Cloak and Dagger episode, so become a member. Watch our membership-only episodes. David Kreitzer, thank you for coming on in. The NFL is selling single games for $75 to $80 million. The money in the consolidated college football world is going to explode. Yep, the economics of consolidation is still among us. We don't know where it's going, the extreme of where it's going, but here in college football's peek around the corner, we're going to be covering that story and everything else. So hang with us, everybody. Lots of changes coming up. Let's get to the first story. We're just going to go over one part of Mr. Wilner's article, Mercury News, a few days ago. We haven't done a live show since last Thursday. So I'm all cranked up. I hope you all cranked up. I think it's the longest time we haven't gone do a live show since I was on vacation with the little general. I was not on vacation. We were just busy. College football world, we know this week is going to be crazy. How many live shows are we going to do this week? We're going to average more than one a day. I can guarantee you that. So, anyways, we've been talking about in the Holy Smokes Theater, the matinee show, Pack 2 and Friends. And you all know what we've got set up here in the Holy Smokes Theater. We got 6 Mountain West schools standing on the stage. In the very middle of the stage, is Boise State. On the very right of Boise State is Fresno State. On the left of Boise State is San Diego State. Then going from right to left after San Diego State is Colorado State, UNLV, and Air Force. 6 Mountain West schools are standing on the stage. Now, what does all that mean? Well, what it means is Oregon State and Washington State are looking, trying to create the most valued G5 conference they can possibly create. With the money that they got in the divorce settlement with the other Pac schools when they left, working it out with Fox, possibly the CW, looking for the most valuable conference possible, and we think they're trying to create a Frankenstein conference. What does Wilner think? What does Wilner think? After weeks of us putting out the Holy Smokes Theater matinee show, what does Mr. Wilner think? The range of options for the Pac-2 schools depends largely on the future of the ACC. And Wilner is correct. Realignment always starts with the biggest domino falling first. And of course, the implosion of the ACC is the biggest domino to fall when it comes to the next realignment wave. Which is the more likely path for Washington State in Oregon State? Joining a rumored super conference or rebuilding the Pac-12? This was a question asked to Wilner. The question so many are asking, but nobody can answer, including the hotline. What we can do, however, is address the possible outcomes and offer predictions for each. For the Cougars and the Beavers, it's not quite as simple as joining the super conference or rebuilding the Pac-12. The full sweep of scenarios includes joining the ACC or Big 12 in their current structures, with the latter more likely than the former, but still not very likely. In other words, joining the ACC or joining the Big 12 with their current structures is not likely in any of these scenarios. Of course, Peek Around the Corner absolutely agrees. John Wilner goes on and says, joining whatever reconfigured conference emerges if the ACC collapses, its top brands enter the Big 10 and the SEC, and the remaining schools merge with the Big 12. The resulting league would feature at least 24 teams, may or may not be called the Big 12, and could have spots available for Oregon State and Washington State. Rebuilding the Pac-12 with some combination of Mountain West schools, Mountain West members, schools from other Group of 5 leagues, and former Pac-12 schools that reverse course. Stanford and Cal are at risk because of the ACC's tenuous situation. Another option, rebuilding the Pac-12 with some combination of Mountain West members and schools from other Group of 5 leagues. Then that is what the PATC, the Holy Smokes Theater, that is what we believe. That is the chatter. That is what we're getting told. This is the scenario that is most likely. This is the scenario in which Washington State and Oregon State have the most control over, obviously. So this is what they're working on. This is why we open up the matinee. The next option, rebuilding the Pac-12 only with the help from the Mountain West. Either all 12 schools or a selected number. We believe this is the second option. And of course, it would be only, as we've said, we don't believe Washington State and Oregon State are going to take all the Mountain West schools. Only a selected number. Those 6 that are on the stage. Those 6 that are on the stage. Now, and of course, we believe Washington State and Oregon State then will attempt to grab one or two of AAC schools. So John Wilner is going through all the options. Next, let's address the variables at play in the shaping the future structure of the football bowl subdivision. The list starts with NCAA legal issues and impact a revenue sharing plan with athletes will have on the competitive landscape. We are months from knowing the details and at least a year from implementation of any revenue sharing plan. I believe we're not months away from it. I think we're weeks away from getting more detail on it. Obviously, because a settlement should be happening by this Thursday. The other unknown, whether ACC blows apart as a result of the lawsuits filed by Clemson and Florida State, which are seeking to extricate themselves from a grant of rights agreement. A settlement is the most likely outcome, but we don't know when that might occur, when the Tigers and Seminoles would leave the conference, how many schools would follow, and how those left behind would respond. So let's offer a few assumptions. First, the likelihood of Washington State and Oregon State joining the ACC or the Big 12 is so slim as to approach non-existent. We agree. And we've never been... Look, I still have Cougar fans and Beaver fans upset with PATC because we were the ones that were, February 24th, 2023, we said the odds favored the Big 12 to poach the Pac-12. And we never had Washington State and Oregon State in any scenario going to the Big 12. And I understand they were frustrated with us here at Peek Around the Corner. But just let the record show, we told you the truth. We told you the truth on how we were told what was going on, and it happened to be correct. I got nothing against the Cougars. I got nothing against the Beavers. We also said here at Peek Around the Corner that we believe that Washington State and Oregon State had a very good case against the remaining PAC members in the court case, in the divorce settlement, and we were correct on that as well. So we're giving you the straight shoot, or shooting it to you straight, however you want to say it. Washington State and Oregon State joining the ACC of the Big 12 on how they're configured right now, I don't think there's an opportunity for that to happen. Second, John Wilner, Mercury News. If the ACC ruptured and the Bay Area schools are forced to seek another home, their preference would be in the Big 10 as the 5th and 6th members of the Western Division. Stanford and Cal would agree to join the conference loaded with Mountain West schools only if they have no other recourse. Now, we believe there's no chance for California to join the Big 10, and we believe there is little chance for Stanford to join the Big 10 here at Peek Around the Corner. Which brings us to the predictions. And please keep in mind that all scenarios listed below likely will take years to play out. Washington State and Oregon State join the current ACC, not happening. Washington State, Oregon State to join the current Big 12, not happening. Washington State and Oregon State to join a reconfigured Big 12. If the ACC implodes, 5%. Washington State and Oregon State to build the Pac-12 with Stanford and Cal, 12%. I would agree with that. Washington State and Oregon State rebuild the Pac-12 with Mountain West schools exclusively, 31%. We would put that at about 10% here at Peek Around the Corner. Washington State and Oregon State rebuild the Pac-12 with an assortment of group of 5 schools, 51%. We would have that at about 85, 88, 90%. So John Wilner agrees with Peek Around the Corner. The most likely outcome in what they're working on, Washington State and Oregon State to rebuild the Pac-12 with a selected members of the Mountain West, not all of them, and then try to pick off a couple AAC schools. So Wilner agrees with the peek around the corner. And then finally in the article, there's one scenario not listed above, but worth mentioning. The Cougars and Beavers join the Mountain West. It's unlikely, because dissolving the Pac-12 would mean relinquishing tens of millions of dollars in NCAA tournament revenue due to the conference in the second half of the decade, but it can't be discounted altogether. We are discounting it here at Peek Around the Corner. It's not going to be the Cougars and Beavers joining the Mountain West. It's going to be some Mountain West schools joining the Cougars and Beavers. That's what we believe here at Peek Around the Corner. We've got 6 schools on the stage, as you know. This is why we're covering it. This is why there's so many stories that we're covering. But this is why we got a peek, gave you a peek around the corner. This is why we opened up the Holy Smokes Theater to a matinee special. Pac-2 and Friends. This is why we have 6 schools on that stage. This is the chatter that's happening behind the curtain. John Wilner's getting it. He's reporting it. This was a couple days ago. We opened up the matinee a few weeks ago. There are 6 particular schools on the stage. Are they going to get an offer good enough? Is there going to be a good enough valuation? Are those schools going to be willing to leave the other 6 Mountain West schools behind to form the new PAC conference? The schools, once again, Boise State's in the middle of the stage. On the right of them is Fresno State. On the left of them is San Diego State. And if you go from right to left, looking at the stage from San Diego State, it's Colorado State, UNLV, Air Force. Those are the 6 schools that we have been told. This is what Oregon State and Washington State are taking a very strong look at, and a couple AAC schools. A couple of them. And we'll get more into that as the days and weeks continue. Ryan Willie, the evil badger. The evil badger. The Big East crying foul is funny. Just because their basketball conference doesn't take them off the hook for paying the settlement. Marquette should pay their fair share. Wisconsin's own Marquette on the basketball court. Ooh, Ryan Willie.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Ryan Willie comes in with the elbows. Of course, it's a Badger. Throwing an elbow at Marquette. I do not agree. I mean, of course they're going to pay some of it. But the Big Ten schools should be paying more of it. Because they're the conference that has... They were in the position... Okay. Compare the Big Ten to the Big East schools. The Big Ten were in position to pay out more to the student athletes over the years. And because of the NCAA, the rules of NIL and the rules, they did not. They stopped. It damaged the student athletes more, the Big Ten, with these regulations that were basically unconstitutional, where they weren't treating the student athlete the same way they were treating the student when it came to name, image, and likeness opportunities. The Big Ten damaged the student athletes in the class action lawsuit more than the Big East schools did. That's how I'm looking at it. I appreciate the donation, Ryan. You are very generous to this channel. Of course, you get an opportunity. It's a super chat to express what you believe. I appreciate that. We're going to disagree here at Peek Around the Corner. But man, we'll get more into it. We're going to hit that story next. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Thank you so much for your continued generosity to this channel. Wisconsin, the Eva Badger, is not happy with the situation of the Big East pushing back. Just looking at some more comments here. Beavers' lives matter, no question about it. Clinton Mose is in the house. Tumasta is in the house. Jay Copenhagen is here. The Big East did push back. We're going to hit that next. Tony, could Hawaii get the Alaska hockey? Could Hawaii football get the Alaska hockey treatment? Yes. I'm going to say yes. Unfortunately. Thank you, Tony, for your super chat. I understand what you're saying. Alaska was part of a conference. Hockey, it's hard to travel there. It's both Alaska schools, Alaska and Alaska Anchorage, having a more and more difficult time competing in hockey. They're independent hockey programs. Nobody wants to add them. It's a tough situation. That could be Hawaii's football future. Tony, thank you so much for your super chat, for your generosity. Good question. I think that's definitely possible. I did get another question here I wanted to get to, but I lost it. Okay. Let's get to, we've hit that. John Wilner basically agrees with Peek Around the Corner. That is the chatter behind the curtains. That's why we're opening up that matinee. Nicole Auerbach from The Athletic, the CCA22, the group of non-FBS Division I conferences, is submitting an alternative damages payment proposal to top NCAA governing board, sources tell The Athletic. They're asking to either delay a final decision on the financial breakdown or adjust to it. Approximately it's 60-40. 60 Power 4 conferences, 40% of the damage payment, non-Power 4 schools. Ross Dellinger, later on. The alternative proposal obtained by Yahoo Sports requests a new split in how NCAA pays for the $2.77 billion in back damages. Under the alternative, power leagues would be responsible for 58% of back damages, and NCAA G5 non-FBA leagues pay 42%. Again, I'm not going to spend much time. I'm not going to spend any more time on. This is the most important issue this week. But we're watching a ping pong game going on here, right? They're going into the deep weeds. They're battling on percentages. Eventually, they're gonna get something. They're voting on it tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday. The conferences, the power conferences, they're voting on this tomorrow, and then Thursday, supposedly, we're gonna get the big news of a settlement. So I'm really gonna hit this tomorrow. I'm really gonna hit this Wednesday. Obviously, we're gonna really hit this Thursday. I did not want to hit this. This is the most important story going on, right? This is gonna change the world. I didn't want to hit this 4 days in a row after we've hit it hard Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday of last week. Again, they're battling over the percentages of Power 5, non-Power conference, Power 4 conference schools versus non-Power 4 conference schools. We know the damage is $2.77 billion. It looks like there's going to be roster limitations for football, other sports. They're going to open up roster possibilities, scholarships. We're going to know more tomorrow. Wednesday, and then Thursday, I think, is going to be the big day. Before we get to the next story, Ryan Willie, thank you so much for incredible generosity once again. Holy smokes. The evil badger has come out swinging. And, by the way, swinging. Again, the fat guy from Minnesota. I am not happy. I am not happy at all with that trailer of the EA Sports new 2025 college football video game that the whole world is excited about. That trailer was terrible, horrific on a grand scale. That was terrible. In that trailer, there was 4 separate shots of the Wisconsin Badgers. 4! Not 3, not 2, not 1, not 0, like my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. There were 4 individual shots in that trailer of the Wisconsin Badgers. And the 4th one, the second to the last scene of that trailer, was the Wisconsin Badger holding the axe, swinging the axe to cut down the goalpost. I almost died when I watched that trailer. The whole country watched that trailer in real time. I did. It was 10 o'clock Central Time in the morning. I had my eyes wide open. I had it on there. And I'm watching every pixel of that trailer. Every cutscene, back and forth. I watched every second. I rewinded it after I was astonished, after I was aghast. 4 separate Wisconsin Badger shots. 4! And they had them swinging the axe. Unbelievable. I'm still hot on it. I'm still hot. I know, look, I get it. The Buckeye fans are not happy either. The Buckeye fan, I get it. I'm telling you what, I'm all fired up. I'm all fired up for this. I want the season to start right now. Bring it on, Badger. Evil Badger, Ryan Willie, thank you so much. I'm sure you are happy. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted membership. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Ryan Willie, you are hereby knighted cloak and dagger once again. I do appreciate your kindness. I know you had to listen to my rant, but I'm sure you're laughing. I'm sure you have no problem with it. Holy smokes. Tumasta, Mr. Hot Guy, Immaculate, Cornelius Green, Sky, Clint Moses, we're all gifted a membership by the Evil Badger, Ryan Willie. Please all say thank you to Ryan for his generosity. You are all hereby knighted cloak and dagger. Now, we did drop a membership, episode 37, membership only episode, talking about North Dakota State, and a little bit about the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. Check it out. If you haven't, if just become a member, or if you haven't done so, check out episode 37. I think we released it Friday or Saturday. Check it out. That was our latest Cloak and Dagger episode. Give it a look. Maria Hernandez Garcia, Flugar Rojas Vargas. Flugar is in the house. The moderator, the one who rules with an iron fist, says hello and says, let's go Timberwolves. Let's go Timberwolves. Let's go Timberwolves. And of course, She did not like my rant. She doesn't like it when I rant. Okay, that will be my only rant of the night. That will be my only rant during this live show. Okay. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Thank you so much. We're going to get to the next story. We've got so many. First of all, we got to talk a little college football. We got some lines coming out. We've got some lines coming out. DraftKings, North Carolina, Minnesota Golden Gophers, Thursday night. I don't know why it says 2 p.m. on there. I think that's a 7 or 8 o'clock game. It don't matter. Gophers favored by 1.5. It's going to be close. It's going to be close. It's going to be real close. North Dakota State versus Colorado. Colorado is favored by 7.5. I got a feeling that the Bison are going to give the Buffaloes everything they want in that first game. Very, very, Colorado plays Nebraska the next week. Could Colorado be looking a little bit ahead towards Nebraska? You better keep focus on the Bison. We got some other games. Clemson and Georgia. Georgia's favored by 13.5. That has been 12.5. It has jumped to 13.5. I'd still take the Bulldogs. I think the Bulldogs are going to roll in this game. I do apologize to Clemson Tiger fans, but I think that's an impossible first game for Clemson. Georgia is going to be ready to roll. Their wide receiver room, Georgia's going to be rolling this year. That is just my... I've got Georgia number one in the country. Ohio State number one in the country. I got them do-si-doing each other every other day. Georgia, the Bulldogs, Ohio State, the Buckeyes. They're clearly the number 1-2 team in the country, in my opinion. Penn State and West Virginia. The Mountaineers are getting plus 10. Boy, I like that. I like that plus 10. Garrett Green at home. Now, I can't remember. Don't pay attention to those times. A lot of those times don't mean anything. The Georgia-Clemson game is on 11 o'clock Central Time, noon time Eastern. I don't know. Is West Virginia, Penn State? That's not a primetime game, is it? I think that's during the day. Garrett Green, Drew Aller. You've got 4 good running backs in that game, 2 for each team. Boy, I think West Virginia's going to keep that with it. I think the Mountaineers is the play. Then you got the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, Oklahoma State, Virginia Tech, and Vanderbilt. The Cowboys are favored by 8. The Hokies are favored by 11. Fresno State and Michigan. Michigan putting out a new quarterback. Probably going to be Alex Orji. First game really as a starter. Start the season. Florida Gators. Miami Hurricanes. Miami, Florida. Cam Ward. All those new pieces they got down there. Holy smokes. I like the Hurricanes in that game. Texas A&M, Notre Dame, I have got no idea. I think Texas A&M is going to take a big jump in their first season. Very first season. Nick Scorton, the transfer from Purdue, he's going to put a lot of pressure on that newly surgically repaired ankle of Riley Leonard, the new quarterback of Notre Dame, who just got another surgery done on his ankle a couple months ago. That game could go either way. I don't know what I'm going to do with that one. USC +6. LSU. I'm not convinced on Nussmeier. I'm not convinced. He's got a great offensive line ahead of him. Their left tackle and the right tackle of LSU are projected future first and second rounders in the NFL draft. LSU is stacked, but Garrett Nussmeier, I'm not a believer yet. Will I be a believer after the first game against USC? Some of the lines, I just want to have you guys let that marinate, because as you know, I'm going to be doing my picks. The PATC community is going to be doing your picks. We're going to keep track. We both were lousy last year. Both of us were well under 50% against the spread. Was Greg the Cooler versus PATC Fridge. So, anyways, Mo and Vision, Mr. Buckeye. Burt scoring 52 points and Illini winning. Illinois crushing the Buckeyes. Far more grievous offense. Ohio. Thank you for the super chat, Mo. I know. Buckeye fans are upset. Gopher fans are upset. We will have our revenge. We will have our revenge. Okay, let's get to the next story. Thank you, Moan Vision, for your generosity to our show. Thank you so very, very, very much. Matt Baker. Matt Baker, the Tampa Bay Times, updated this a couple times today. Florida State appeals ACC lawsuit to North Carolina Supreme Court. The school argues its 9-figure dispute with the league belongs in Florida, where the Treasury is at risk. Now, a lot of this is duplication. A lot of this we've heard in the pleadings at Florida State. There is some new language. There is some new stuff happening. So we're going to go over it. Short article, Matt Baker, update, Tampa Bay Times. Florida State has formally asked the North Carolina Supreme Court to review its initial legal loss to the Atlantic Coast Conference. In a petition filed late Friday, the school argued that North Carolina Business Court incorrectly ruled in favor of the ACC last month. The Seminoles filing focuses on 3 points. 3 points. The first is that the ACC did not properly follow its voting protocols when it sued Florida State and North Carolina. Remember, this is all about formally asking the North Carolina Supreme Court to review the initial legal loss. Remember, Judge Bledsoe ruled against Florida State and basically everything, all the pleadings except for the fiduciary pleading. Everything else went ACC's way. Florida State has formally asked North Carolina Supreme Court, it's happened, to review the legal loss, the losses to the Atlantic Coast Conference. The first, that the ACC did not properly follow its voting protocols. The second is related to the first. Florida State contends the conference rushed to the courthouse to try to have the case litigated in its home court, North Carolina, instead of Florida State's home court. The ACC, according to Florida State, long plan behind the back of Florida State to sue Florida State. According to Florida State, the ACC long planned behind the back of Florida State to sue Florida State. and had been laying in wait for the opportune time to spring its hip pocket complaint, all for strategic advantage. The final point of the 3 points that Florida State is pleading with the North Carolina Supreme Court to review, the final point is that Florida, not North Carolina, is the proper venue because Florida has the most at stake. The key subject of this dispute is the TV rights for Florida State home games using Florida State facilities and being aired from Tallahassee after the Noles leave the ACC. What could possibly be more Florida-centric? The petition asked. Other issues, including the connection to tax dollars, mean the case should properly be interpreted and decided by a Florida court, i.e. by the state whose treasury is at risk, and the state far more familiar with the intent and application of these state-specific statutes. Florida State and its conference home since 1991 have been litigating against each other since December over the Seminoles' potential exit. The withdrawal fee alone is about $140 million. And Florida State has estimated the full cost to leave could reach $700 million. This petition is only one prong in Florida State's appeal in North Carolina. Another prong on personal jurisdiction and sovereign immunity is on deck for consideration by that state Supreme Court in the next few months. Florida State's petition said, Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody has said she's considering action in that part of the case. So Florida State is flooding the zone in Mecklenburg County, flooding the zone, appealing to the state Supreme Court, the state of North Carolina. But that is not all. That is not all. Then there was an update. Matt Baker. The amended complaint. Florida State updated its suit last week to address a judge's jurisdictional concerns and took the opportunity to grow its complaint from 7 counts to 9. So when they sent in the amended complaint that Judge Cooper allowed them to do, that was due May 22nd. They've already sent it in. The number of complaints went from 7 to 9. In the updated complaint, Florida State said the missions of the conference and school have diverged and that the Seminoles have become an increasingly square peg trying to fit into a round hole. The school said that the ACC essentially has declared itself an inferior athletics to conference by letting the Big Ten and the SEC earn millions more in future college football playoff payouts. And here it is. The PATC money shot of this article and the PATC money shot of this monologue. I've gotten a whole bunch of DMs from Seminole fans when it comes to this next part. The result: Florida State must either abandon its hard-won achievements or withdraw. In reality, no choice at all. I'll circle back to that. Florida State has not formally said it will leave the league, but said a court may issue a withdrawal notice retroactive to August 14th, 2023. Florida State also seeks any further relief the courts consider fit. Florida State and the ACC are scheduled to engage in mediation this summer. Now, the result. We're getting back to the paragraph on top of your screen. Florida State must either abandon its hard-won achievements or withdraw. In reality, no choice at all. These are Florida State words in the amended complaint filed late last Friday. Either Florida State is arguing that either they have to abandon everything they've done, the hard-won achievements. They have to abandon the possibility of competing at the very highest level of college football in college sports because of the growing revenue gap. Either Florida State has to abandon their achievements and abandon what they could do in the future, or they need to withdraw from the conference. In reality, there's no choice at all. They've got to withdraw. They're not going to abandon. They're not going to give it all up. They're not going to give up their brand. They're not going to want to watch their brand, their athletic department drop in value. So they have no choice. They have to withdraw. Now, a lot of Seminole fans are saying, great. This means that they're going to file a notice of withdrawal soon. And I understand people believe that. We happen not to believe it. We'll see what happens. But we do agree that Florida State eventually is going to withdraw. We just think there's going to be a settlement before they withdraw, or they're going to withdraw next year. We don't think it's going to happen this summer. If it does, we'll take the L here at Peek Around the Corner. But we think this is a more global statement. Either we have to just forget about our hard-won achievements, building our brand to this level, or we withdraw from the conference. In reality, Florida State has no choice at all. They're going to have to withdraw. They're going to have to withdraw. By hook or by crook. And I think it's going to be after they achieve some sort of settlement. Now, let's jump to what Michael Alford said, the athletic director. Again, we're covering a lot of ground here at Peek Around the Corner. We'll try to finish up this monologue, but I haven't been on the air for 3 days, and the college football world is going crazy, and we got to try to cover it all here at Peek Around the Corner. Florida State Athletic Director Michael Alford offers insight into the relationship with the ACC and the chances of staying. This was written by Matt Conley. Michael Alford did an interview. Florida State, this was today. This is new. Florida State Athletic Director Michael Alford has been very open about his desire to get the Seminoles out of the ACC. The SEC and the Big Ten schools are already bringing in significantly more money than those in the ACC, and the gap is set to widen in the coming years. Alford joined College Sports on Sirius XM and was asked if there's any chance of the ACC salvaging its relationship with Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina, schools that are also looking to leave the league. Alford didn't completely rule out the possibility, but it does seem unlikely. This is Michael Alford. I'll say you run out every ground ball. That's the baseball analysis for you. We're going to continue to run out every ground ball, Michael Alford said. But what we do know is analytics. And we do know the revenue gap coming in the future and how it's just going to get worse and worse. The SEC and the Big Ten recently signed massive new TV deals, while the ACC is locked in its contract with ESPN into 2036. Florida State and Clemson are currently suing the ACC to try to get out of the conference in an effort to bring in more money for their athletic departments. Alford expects more conference realignment to occur in the coming years. Alford expects it. Now, we keep hearing this from other people as well. Alford expects more conference realignment to occur in the coming years. You're seeing, this is Michael Alford, and this is the PATC money shot of this article, of this interview by Michael Alford. You're seeing networks, the athletic director of Florida State, you're seeing networks really consolidate the major brands of college football. And they want brand on brand being played against each other. And that is exactly the words we used when we reported about USC calling the Big Ten, going to join the Big Ten. We said that the era of consolidation, the networks want brand to be playing brand more often. Mike Alford is using the same terminology. He's being told this. They want brand on brand being played against each other. And that's something that we see, Alford said. That's something that we think is not finished, and it's not. We think there's even more change coming in the upcoming years, and we're taking this day by day. And what I think Mike Alford is saying, and maybe I'm just being a little biased because what we're being told here at Peek Around the Corner, the Cloak and Dagger, when Alford says we think there's even more change coming in the upcoming years, and we're taking this day by day, they are in the grind. They are committed to the grind. Whatever happens, Florida State is going to be writing some check. They're going to announce they're going to get a settlement. There's going to be some number. This is what we believe here at Peek Around the Corner. There's going to be some number, some exit hatch created by writing a check. They're going to find out what that is. And then Florida State is going to have meaningful conversations, first-party talks with the Big Ten, the SEC. They're going to see what is the best proposition, the best deal that they can get for their university, for their front porch of the university. And then they're going to look at the deal, and then if it's a good enough deal, and we think it's going to be, from whatever, SEC of the Big Ten, they're going to go write that check to the ACC and seal it all up. Remember, they're looking for a settlement number. And once they get that number, then they're going to start negotiating. They're going to start talking. They're going to have meaningful conversations. They're not going to write the check before they have meaningful conversations. They're just going to get that number. What is the number? And then Florida State's going to go to work with first-party talks. And then they're going to write the check. And then you're going to have the application. Then you're going to have the offer from the conference, knowing that Florida State's going to say yes. But we're taking this day by day. They are committed to the grind. Now, if Alford had his choice, college football would go back to the way it was before conference realignment. Schools would remain in their leagues, and traditions would continue. However, that's no longer an option, and he has to do what he thinks is best for Florida State. I wish it would go back to 2005. I really do, because I had a great experience, Alford said. But times have changed. You can't look back. You got to look forward. You got to anticipate what changes are coming. You've got to prepare yourself, your institution, to be able to adapt quickly and be prepared on the forefront of those changes. And finally, in this article, it sums up. It will be interesting to see what happens with Florida State in the coming months and years if the Seminoles, Clemson, and North Carolina do end up leaving the conference. And we believe here at Peek Around the Corner that they will leave the conference. It's going to get done. They're going to find out what that number is. And then they're going to leave, if they get a good enough deal offer from the SEC and the Big Ten. And we think they will. Now, I want to show you guys, before we get to phone calls. Before we get to phone calls, The Athletic comes out late afternoon. Scott Dochterman, the Big Ten paid out just over $60 million per school. Reported a deficit in 2023 tax filing. The Big Ten saw revenues jump by more than $34 million in the fiscal year 2023, but its expenses rose by more than $46 million. According to the league's 2023 fiscal year tax filing, which was obtained by The Athletic on Monday. The $17.56 million shortfall marked the third consecutive year that the league reported a deficit, dating to 2020-21, drastically altered by COVID-19 pandemic. Much of the financial fallout spills over from when the league sold a larger equity share of the Big Ten network to Fox, which saw its ownership stake of the channel increase from 51% to 61%. Fox Sports now owns 61% of the conference, and all the other fully invested members of the Big Ten and the Big Ten have an equal share among themselves when it comes to the other 39%. The league's $23 million dividend from Big Ten in fiscal 2021 became a $28 million dividend loss in its 2023. Still, the Big Ten generated nearly $880 million in 2023. The SEC created $853 million. So they're both are climbing towards $900 million. The Big Ten, now this is important. We've talked about this before. I talked about this when it was revealed that the Pac-12 had about $50 to $70 million in reserved. When it came to all the Pac-12 drama, it was reported that the Pac-12 had $50 to $70 million in reserve, and I reported to you all that the Big Ten has much, 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 much more than that. The Big Ten holds more than $255 million in assets. Big Ten's got a lot of money. The conference itself has a lot of money. Now, that is assets. That's just not money, but a lot of it is just straight cash, homie. A lot of that $255 million is cash. Remember, the Big Ten only owns one share of the Big Ten network. Nebraska owns up one share of 17 shares of the 39% of the Big Ten network. So that is not really much of Big Ten network assets. Some of it is, and then a lot of it is straight cash. So Big Ten has a lot of money. If they wanted to do something, that's why there's a lot of theories out there, a lot of conspiracy theories on what the Big Ten could do for some ACC schools if they decide, if the conference implodes. Its revenue should grow and perhaps exceed $1 billion at the end of the current fiscal year, thanks in part to the conference's latest media rights package. It most definitely is. That's not even a question. It's going to go way over $1 billion. Way over $1 billion. Former Commissioner Jim Delaney and Kevin Warren made nearly $10 million in compensation, consulting services. Delaney's still getting a lot of money. He received almost $6 million in bonuses and other compensation, while picking up $400,000 in consultation fees. Warren, who left the league on April 14th, picked up $3.71 million, on and on and on and on and on. Of its $879.8 million in revenue, the Big Ten dispersed $843 of it to its 14 members. The league's 12 fully vested members received 60.4865, so $60 million each. While Maryland and Rutgers, almost fully vested, borrowed money from the Big Ten, while non-vested members picked up $58 million, 58.7, 58.8. A little bit of their money is being withheld to help pay for the money that they borrowed. The numbers that you're seeing should jump significantly next year, because next year is the first year of the reported money coming in with the new Big Ten media deal. So those numbers are going to skyrocket. And they're already big numbers. And that is reality. And that is what Florida State is looking at. That is what North Carolina is looking at. That is what all the ACC schools know that is coming. That's the fuel that is burning this fire. That is why Florida State and Clemson are in the courts, because what the risk-benefit analysis makes it so, of course, they were going to challenge the ACC Gore, tied with the ACC ESPN media agreement, and this is where we are today. Student athletes are going to soon be paid directly by the university. That is the straw that has been stirring the drink. And with this settlement that's going to happen on or before this Thursday, this week, when that happens, it's going to be more important than ever, if you want to compete at the highest level in whatever sport you're competing at, is to have enough money for recruitment and everything else that goes along with it. But a heavy part of it's going to be recruitment. You're going to need the revenue. You're going to need the money to compete, to get the best student athletes in your university at whatever particular sport you're trying to compete at the highest level. And mostly it's football, because that brings in the most revenue to your athletic department by far. That is the barrel of the gun that Florida State is looking down at. That's what they're looking at. They have no choice. Florida State has no choice. Clemson had no choice. And a few other ACC schools are rooting for the success of Clemson, rooting for the success in Florida State to get a settlement number with the ACC. I'm going to open up the phone lines. I've been talking way too long. We had a long monologue because we had lots and lots to cover. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. 1-333-763-260-1333. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Open up your notifications. We're going to be going on a lot. We're going to be doing a lot of live shows this week. So buckle up, brace for impact as we head towards a settlement. It looks like it's going to happen Thursday. And if it happens Thursday, it's going to be massive. I don't even know if I've got my arms around it. And we talk about it every day.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours. Thanks for the call.
Hey, Greg. Hey, I know earlier you had talked about previously, sort of with Kevin Warren in the Big Ten, kind of the goal or the idea of wanting to have the student athletes actually be employees of the conference. Has that lost traction? Is that an idea out there? Is that something they're waiting to think about possibly doing, depending on what comes down with these National Labor Relations Board's lawsuits that are going on? Sort of, what have you heard about that?
Well, what I've heard is what you've heard, right? The presidents don't want it. They don't want their student athletes to become employees of the university. So Tony Petitti's not pushing for it. They're praying for a carve-out from Congress, antitrust carve-out. I don't know if they're going to get it or not. I think.
Is the push? Is the push? Because I know Warren had talked about having them employed by the conference.
Yes, but that isn't. Kevin Warren said things without getting buy-in from the presidents. That's just
gotcha.
One of many, many issues. But Tony Petitti is not going to say anything. He's just gonna. He doesn't talk about anything on public. So,
have you heard sort of what the contingency plan, if there isn't a carve out, or if those NLRB suits go against them? Would they consider the conference model, having the conference employ them? Sort of. Have you or is it just everybody's just kind of keeping their lips tight? Well, it sounds to me like
I haven't heard anything. We've always assumed that it would be by conference, but maybe they would have to include everybody inside the same guardrails, kind of like what they're kind of doing with this settlement. They're included. I don't know, man. I do not know what is going to happen.
Yeah, I know it's just curious. I know it'll be coming down in about a month or so, and sort of to see, who knows what Congress will do. This could get really, wacky and wild. I know. Immaculate and myself and others kind of speculate back and forth about all the different possible iterations of what could happen. And, it's sort of, if there's an opportunity to kind of have a controlled crash landing, then that could be a decent outcome for the ACC. Not perfect, but a decent outcome for some. But, man, if there's, no action and this is just crazy and it's chaos, who knows what could happen? I know the ACC, kind of settling. I'll tell you why you probably settle is the ACCs, because if for some reason the courts find out, and they don't have to rule on the grant of rights itself and whether or not. There's obviously two questions of whether it's valid and whether it's enforceable. A judge could still rule on a very, very, very narrow ground, saying that somehow the ACC didn't follow some procedural method correctly or didn't follow its bylaws and therefore, has to revert to the prior agreement. There could be a very, very narrow ruling, but man, if that gets blown up, that kind of makes everybody a free agent, especially if if that option is in fact, what it is. I don't know. I'm just curious, Greg, because I think the the PATC, we can either have a very well scripted drama this August, Greg, or we could basically have it be complete improv where it's just complete chaos, where everybody forgets the lines and the props. I've had that before many, many, many years ago, Greg. I did some stage acting, and I remember one instance where, we had a prop that actually came down right in the middle of the scene of the plane. And the entire thing, the rest of it had to be basically ad-libbed and improv'd out. I mean, we did a masterful job as a cast, but man, that was chaotic. So I'm curious to see whether or not we've got a good, scripted drama, or whether or not we just have a complete pandemonium of improv.
I think it's the odds favor heavily that we're gonna get a settlement done by Thursday, right?
You mean the House settlement, right?
Yeah, the House settlement.
Not the AC. Yeah.
No, not the ACC. The House settlement.
Yeah.
And that alone, what the ripple effects on that settlement happening, and and again, the big part of it is the back damages, paying out. I get all that, but what I'm most interested in, and again, all that is incredibly important. But the idea that these schools are going to be paying student athletes directly, because that's basically what it is, with the salary cap, how schools are going to decide what they do with this, where they're going to invest their money, I think is so incredibly fascinating. And I don't think the unintended consequences of this, I can't even fathom. I think it's going to be, whole thing could go pear-shaped, but it's going to be fascinating to watch. And I think it's going to be all out in the open. I think there's going to be a lot of transparency. I think the BYU Cougars, I think we're going to know. I think when these football players sign that letter of intent, they're going to be signing some sort of contractual NIL agreement with BYU, with Utah, we're going to know, Mr. Thomas. We're going to know things that we didn't know before. We're going to have different discussions about things that we have never had before in college football when we're talking about all this. It's going to be fascinating. Either way, it's going to be fascinating. Go ahead, sir. I'll let you finish up.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, all I say is I hope that there's money in the banana stand and nobody burns it down.
Got it.
But anyway, Greg, thanks a lot for doing a great job on the show as always. I don't have a lot of confidence in Congress acting quickly on this matter.
No.
So, I mean, I just that's where I get a little bit nervous, is because I think it's one thing, the answer of what needs to be done and having it done is, it can make logical sense, but we also have a lot of grist that like their 2 minutes of fame that, could just be a real pain in the keister on this. So I just hope that at least clarity comes so folks can plan around it, because that's really 90% of the battle right there. I mean, the money will be what the money will be, but just having clarity of rules and clarity of what, needs to be done, that's the thing that really just is, like you said, it's the straw that stirs the drink, and it's what makes this thing kind of go crazy. But I'm really hoping that script gets to the PATC actors really soon, Greg.
Got it.
Anyway, take care, my friend.
You got it. Appreciate it, Mr. Thomas. Thank you. Great call. Great call, Mr. Ryan Thomas, once again. Just checking something here. Okay. All right, phone lines are back open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Greg, do you like pears or just pear-shaped? I do like pears. But when something goes pear-shaped, That means things aren't going the way it was expected to go, at least up here in Minnesota. That is something that we say. That was a long monologue, no question about it. We had a lot to cover here at Peek Around the Corner. If you're just joining us, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, 7:04 Eastern Time, go back to the start of the live show. We covered a lot in our monologue. It's going to be a very big, important week in college football. College sports. College football, what we focus here on this YouTube channel, it's a big week. And I don't want any of you to get upset with me, but I got a feeling, including myself, I'll start with myself. Even though we talk about this every day, even though we kind of know what's coming, even though we kind of know what the numbers are, I still don't think we're grasping. Okay, I'm not going to speak for any of you. I still don't think I grasp what is about to happen. Even though was part of my manifesto on my very first show. Even though this is why when we broke the USC to the Big Ten, when we said USC was calling the Big Ten, this is why USC called the Big Ten. This world that's being created is exactly why USC called the Big Ten. It's exactly why Texas and Oklahoma called the SEC. It's exactly why Brett Yormark became aggressive for the Big 12 institutions to poach the Pac-12 if he could for the betterment of the Big 12 institutions because of this world that's being created. All these decisions since 2019, 2018, 2017 is because of the world that's going to be created this Thursday.
Call from
Immaculate.
Mr. Hawkeye is on the line. The floor is yours, good sir.
It was a good time to call in. You were just talking about all I can think about when it comes to this stuff.
Yes.
It's all this week.
Yeah.
I know people are still thinking, like, what's going on with Florida State and ACC? What's going on with Clemson, North Carolina, all that stuff. It really doesn't matter this week. I'm sure their lawyers are working on it, but I doubt anyone at those schools or in the conference right now are even really thinking about it. That's how big what's going on this week is.
Yeah.
And we'll probably carry into next week. The after effects for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I try to get it across in text to people like how big of a deal this is, but that's pretty much impossible.
Mm-hmm.
How do you show like this is this big of a deal? I'm going to use the word historic. It's going to be historic. We're going to look back, and this week, this happening is probably going to be a time when everyone remembers because this is when it all changed. That's really what Thursday is, and I know folks are oh look, the Big East they're pushing. The Big East is trying to get a few percentage points shaved off.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Like final moments. I've said like Thursday was. I'm really shocked that Thursday is the day when that meeting's happening. They are down to the wire. That's the exact day that the lead counsel for the 3 lawsuits against the NCAA said that things that they had to have an agreement by that date, or the price was going to go up significantly. So, I mean, they must be taking every single day to have this run through every conference to get this agreed upon, and having that vote within the NCAA on the very last possible day. I mean, they may have to get that done early in the morning because the hearings are supposed to start for the 4th case that day. And I don't know all the legalities of why that's such a big deal or why that will affect it, but that seems to be the case.
Yeah, it
and
is.
he seems to want to have that agreement in place before that starts. And there was some talk about having them being consolidated. I don't know how that legally happens, but they're talking about it. So I don't know if you follow Amanda Krisovich. She did a piece on how much money and effort's been going towards this whole time towards the lobbying Congress. And I know most people are super skeptical about it. I mean, so am I. Who's not skeptical about Congress getting anything done?
15 million.
But this kind of 15 million, and this is one of those win-wins for everybody. And you know the media is going to come in on their side if they pass something. Like, it's just how it works. And everyone there is in their interest to not see, these schools say declare bankruptcy. And that might just be a false threat, but they're saying that. They're saying they might have to do that. So for me, I get the cynicism towards Congress, but I very much believe that they're going to come out, and they may already have something in plans. Remember, how long ago was this? If you maybe your memory is better than mine, I'm thinking like 2 months ago or something, where all the major conference commissioners and the president of the NCAA, they were in Washington. You remember that?
Yeah. Yes.
And reporting was kind of sketchy, not too much about it really. Kind of sounded like, oh, nothing's happening. But now looking back in hindsight, do you think maybe something was happening?
I guess there's a possibility. Yes. I'm really on the fence on this whole Congress thing. To me, logically,
I understand.
Huh?
That's what I understand. I mean,
yeah.
that's the logical thing is like they don't do anything, but this is so big. I mean, this is very big. This isn't just about sports. I mean, this is about all these student athletes at all these schools and possible employment or having a hybrid system and the cost involved and government is involved with that. Like, this is absolutely something that I think once they have agreement, like a settlement, because a settlement's agreement, right? It's agreement between the schools, conferences, the NCAA, and the students and their representation, their lawyers. If they get that, they can look at that and say, look, we've got across the board agreement. This is no longer a political issue.
No.
I mean, it still kind of is, but they can say that. And, they might have something in committee the very next day. We'll see. So and if that happens, these NLRB cases, they might as well just shut the books on them. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, that could be why the NLRB case for USC stopped for 2 months. They might have caught wind of this and like, oh, hold on, and then they come back in session for 2 days, and then they're like, okay, we're done. I mean, I don't know enough about them to know if that's usual or not, but it seems unusual to me to go on break for 2 months, come back for 2 days and close up. Like,
and we haven't heard anything about the NLRB making a decision on. I mean, what
on
is
Dartmouth? Yes.
Yeah. What is the
USC? No.
We haven't heard anything about it. So.
Because Dartmouth, they passed it. I mean, it passed, and right now it's on appeal, and the Ivy League's even pushing it. But I think that they're not even going to get heard. But the USC case, we've not, and a lot of media, and there's some people on X that are supportive of it happening, but many of them also have some business interests involved with, the employee effort means now representation, and so you kind of got to be careful in that regard. And there's some very smart people with some very good opinions on that, but they also do have some bias. Yeah. But that, I think if, say this happens and they have this hybrid system that doesn't make students employees, I think if you're the NLRB, you gotta see what's going on here, see which way the wind's blowing, and not push that upon private schools, because you're creating an unequal competitive environment. And that's exactly why the case with Northwestern was overturned. Mm-hmm. That passed the first time, and then they got it appealed and it got overturned on those very same grounds of creating an uncompetitive environment for the student athletes at Northwestern versus all the schools that they compete against in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
That's the same case for a lot of schools. So just to kind of sum that up, what's going to happen on Thursday could cause basically a domino effect right down the line. Mm-hmm. Right on down the line, things that we've been waiting for. And if those things happen, we get the settlement, maybe Congress acts, NLRB cases close up. Boom. Immediately now the ACC and all those private schools in that conference, you think they haven't been waiting for this information? Like what's going to be our future situation? I mean, that could be cleared up. And if once they have that, maybe that's enough to ease that. And if that gets eased and that has movement, now what happens with the Pac-2, the Big 12? I mean, gears could start moving that have been held up. And just on the last note on that, and then we'll let people come in and go crazy on that, but they are sneaking in the new government model in that settlement. And in my opinion, that's just as big news. That's going to be however this whole situation is governed from here going forward. Now, one thing I've suggested is that they're going to take the autonomous conference setup and fully empower that or near fully empower that, which means the power conferences, the A4 or whatever it becomes, will have largely total control over the FBS. I'll let that sink into folks when they say, oh, this isn't fair about the G5 and the payout. That's the small story. If the autonomous conference gets fully empowered, you basically now have a representative government within the FBS where certain conferences are making all the rules and the others are playing by them. And that's it. So we'll see what comes of that. I think that's going to kind of get snuck through and hardly talked about. But it's up to us to kind of talk about it, I guess.
Yeah. And when it comes to the video games that you young heathens are ready to play, the not this edition, but next year edition, you're going to have probably a salary cap. You're going to be paying your players. You can't go over the cap, whatever, all this stuff. So that's going to be all part of the game. And whew.
They're going to figure out the transfer portal and NIL in the game, which is all brand new.
Yeah.
And then there's going to learn all brand new stuff again next year.
Yeah. Yeah. All righty, man.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Just wanted to get that across. Kind of curious to see what people think about that, but it's going to be a huge week.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're going to hear more about it tomorrow. I mean.
Oh, I'm sure we'll hear all week long, every day.
Yep. All right, sir. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later.
Yeah, great call, Immaculate. I think this is just a little bit of a lull before the storm, obviously, right? And I talked about a lot of things in my monologue today, and the settlement was probably the least part, because I know tomorrow, look, there's going to be conferences. I can't remember which conferences are meeting tomorrow. Some of them are meeting tomorrow, Tuesday. Some of them are meeting Wednesday. They're voting on this settlement. There's going to be reports. I'm going to be coming on live talking about it. So I kind of pushed off the settlement story a little bit for tomorrow. But it's going to be going on for the rest of this week. And again, I'll just speak for myself. I don't even know I've talked about it, don't know if I've grasped it all yet.
Call from
Crab Cakes and Football.
Crab Cakes and Football. Can you hold on just a moment, please?
Yes, sir.
I do appreciate your patience. Kerry Gold knows, just like what happened in our country, college football will come down to the haves and have-nots. Thank you so much for the super chat, for your kindness, Kerry Gold knows. Thank you once again for helping us keep the lights on. Kerry Gold knows is one of our kindest, biggest contributors to our show. Thank you, Mr. Seminole. Kerry Gold knows. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your patience, Mr. Terrapin, Crab Cakes and Football. The floor is yours.
Mind you, I have not heard your whole dialogue because I got in the truck too late, so I'm not even going to try to assume or anything what you had said. I did pick up where you was talking about Maryland and Rutgers and still owing the loan. Do you know how much we still owe on that by chance?
I don't know, but you didn't have much kept from you this time, right? You got paid.
I don't think so. I think we're winding it down.
Yeah,
I
you
think
got
it's like
paid
$58.7
$58.7 million, and the fully invested schools are at a little bit over $60 million. So it's probably not much, or if it is, then they've just decided just to withhold just a tiny bit every year for whatever how many years. I mean, let's be blunt. I think it's a non-issue now, right? I mean, you're getting paid $58 million. You know how many schools would Maryland got a $58 million conference payout? It's a lot.
I can name 4 schools right now that would love a $58 million payout.
Yeah. So you're
Maybe
paying a
5
little
or
bit
6 or 7.
You're paying a little bit on a loan. I mean, shoot, University of Minnesota, we got a $200 million stadium left to pay off. All these athletic departments, they're paying off some sort of bond. They're paying off some debt. Maryland's loan to the Big Ten is probably just a small, at this point, just a small portion of what you're paying back. But go ahead, sir.
And and I'm one of those young 50-some-year-olds that bought or bought the 2025 college football game.
Oh,
Can't
wow.
wait for July. I haven't played a game of any sort really, except for with my son, but that's very rare and in between. In over 20 years, I haven't, and then all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get this game. So I've actually took care of that this weekend.
Now,
but
you're in your
I'm looking
50s,
forward to this
right?
week.
You're in your 50s?
I'm 51 going on 52.
I'm on 56 going on 78. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to warn you. I'm going to warn you. Okay? You probably know this already, crab cakes and football. And please don't take any offense to this.
I won't.
But you're 51 years old. Your hand-eye coordination, the way your mind works, looking at that screen and your fingers, it's not going to be as quick as your son or anybody else you play with.
I'm a one-star recruit.
Huh?
I'm a one-star recruit, hoping and praying for 2 stars.
All right.
I am not the 5 or a 4 or a 3. I might be a 2 if we get the right set eyes on me.
Yeah.
But no, this week is going to be massive, dude. Like Immaculate was saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of sad because I don't like to see the structure of football being decimated the way it is.
Yeah.
But for the players who, especially in the past, who've been injured, those that didn't really make it and who put all their stock into football and really nothing else, and they're going to get some kind of payday out of the deal. It sounds like maybe, and but I mean, yeah, I don't know where this goes from here, but this one has this one is like the game changer for college football. It's going to be the minor leagues of now the NFL, in my opinion. But the problem is, what do the non-revenue sports do?
You and I are going to get into an argument, a discussion about how much money the Terrapins are paying for your left tackle. That's a discussion you and I are going to be having that we've never had before. I really think, I might be wrong, but I think it's been reported. This is all going to be transparent. Public university, this is all going to be transparent. We're going to know how much Maryland has invested in that left tackle. So that left tackle recruit, that 2026 high school class recruit, we're going to know how much Maryland has invested in that left tackle versus how much they've invested in the right tackle versus how much they've invested in the quarterback room. I think we're going to know all this, crab cakes and football.
I think we will too. And like I said, it's a little sad in one sense because everybody loved the conferences and they're still going to have conferences, but I mean, not as many, and it's going to be way bigger. But, and who, the arguments over, well, like they've had the last few years and the debates and everything. now everybody's being paid. It changes the perspective of some of the players. Hey, I've got my money. I'm not going to try as hard. And coaches are going to be up against the wall with it. Or, hey, am I going to be able to get the best out of my left tackle? Or am I going to have to go shopping for some other guy for lesser money? Or it's just, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see if Congress will step in, because if they can make it a voting issue where because everybody loves college football just about. So if you can get one side or the other to be on the wrong side of the issue, that might even cost them the election. So, I mean, it could be that big. So that's the way I look at it. I mean, I doubt that happens, but that would be interesting.
Yeah.
But all right, man, I'll let you go. But I just wanted to chime in. So
you got it.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Great call. And we covered a lot in our monologue. RTR, Alabama, Crimson Tide just gave me a direct message about an article, a Sports Business Journal article that came up earlier today. I did not include it in my monologue. I probably should have. Thank you so very much, RTR 136. Let me just post this right now. Sports Business Journal, NFL owners will discuss allowing private equity funds to buy small stakes in teams at this week's meeting in Nashville. The policy, still months from finalization, could let up to 10% of a team being bought by pre-vetted funds. Now, if the NFL, the most successful professional league, is thinking about having private equity come in and buy small stakes in their teams, private equity is coming to college football. Maybe not in the same uniform wave as it is going to hit NFL. And since I brought up private equity, I've said on Twitter, on X, I've said in this live show, nothing is for certain when it comes to conference realignment in the next wave. I've talked about how Florida State hasn't had first-party talks with the SEC or the Big Ten. Clemson has not had first-party talks with the Big Ten and the SEC. It hasn't happened. There are no offers on the table. They have not applied. There hasn't been first-party talks. And a lot of people get kind of upset with me, but it just hasn't happened. The conferences do not want to go there until they know when and how Florida State will get their media rights, own their media rights. One of the conversations I had with somebody in the reporting industry in college football, one of the conversations I had to do with private equity. For example, and it's just one of many examples. What if Florida State signs on the dotted line a private equity firm, strikes a deal, and now it helps them, they're free for themselves, pay for the grant of rights, the exit fee, or it's a bridge loan, whatever. They just signed a private equity deal. During the process of this court cases and everything, and what if the SEC frowns upon that? Or what if the Big Ten isn't ready to grasp the world of private equity? What if they consider that an extra risk? The Big Ten and the SEC are not going to make any decisions, any offers to anybody until they know the exact lay of the land at the time they need to make the offer. When it comes to Florida State's situation, when it comes to Clemson's situation, when it comes to ESPN, when it comes to Fox Sports, when it comes to Big Ten, when it comes to SEC, these conferences are not going to go way out in front of their ski tips and make decisions based upon things that might completely change when the time can happen where Florida State, where Clemson, where North Carolina, Notre Dame's situation could change. Notre Dame, at the time when the ACC implodes, when schools are going to get that settlement number, what if Notre Dame flips and says, Big Ten, we're interested? Well, now the Big Ten's dynamic has completely changed. It's not about Florida State not being of great value, not having great valuations. They have. They're in a good spot once they get out. Same with Clemson, same with North Carolina, same with a couple other schools. When I say that Florida State doesn't have an offer, it means I'm not degrading Florida State. And I'm not saying that Florida State doesn't have really good valuation numbers. They know their value. When I say that Florida State doesn't have an offer from the SEC of the Big Ten, they don't have an offer from the SEC of the Big Ten. You can disagree with me. You can say I'm wrong. That's fine. This ain't my first rodeo, but you can say that I'm wrong. But it's not about me degrading Florida State, Clemson, or anybody else. That's not what I'm doing. I'm being honest. I'm trying to. There's a million steps to all this. There's legal counsel of the Big Ten. I am not going to come out here on this program and tell you that Florida State has a standing offer from the SEC of the Big Ten when they don't. And if it turns out they do, I'll come out here and give you the big L. But I've been very, very wary of, I'm just going to leave it like, I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, give me a call, 763-260-1333, 763-260-1333. Give me a call. Talk about anything in college football. Going through the chat right now. Crab cakes with the Greg the Cooler, light game and reflexes. I'm telling you guys, you young heathens in the chat. When you get up into your mid-50s, you let me know. If I'm still alive, you let me know if your reflexes are the same as you're in your 30s and your 20s. This is why men and women, as they grow older, they drive slower. They just do. They might not even intend to drive slower, but their brain is telling them you got to slow down because your reflexes are screwed.
Call from
Tristan 5.
Tristan, the floor is yours. Give me tell me what's going on, sir.
I just wanted to call and add what I think is a little context to one of the things you said. You're saying that Florida State and I think also Clemson have not had first-person contact with the SEC or the Big Ten,
no,
correct?
They haven't.
Okay. But you're not saying, though, that they haven't had any communication. Am I correct in saying that?
They've had some. Florida State would, let me put it this way. Florida State would know their valuation, what Big Ten thinks of them, what the SEC thinks of them, what a Fox Sports would think of them, what an ESPN would think of them. They know they would have a perception of their valuation with those conferences and potential media partners. Beyond that, that's what they would know. But they would not be having any discussion with any decision makers of any of those conferences. In fact, and I said this on X, I said, and I say this humbly, I say this on bended knee if I have to Clemson and Florida State fans, Tristan, or North Carolina fans, or whatever. But if you believe that Florida State and Clemson have told the truth in their pleadings, the truth as they know it, the truth as they perceive it, the truth as they read all these documents with ACC media agreements, if you are one that believes that Clemson and Florida State is not dealing from the bottom of the deck, if they're dealing from the top of the deck like I do, then you've also have to consider that Clemson and Florida State are speaking the truth in their pleadings when they have both said, we have not been able to have meaningful conversations with other conferences or potential media partners. They both have said that. And North Carolina, not anybody with real power, but people of the Board of Trustees, John Pryor, has also said it's a shame that Clemson, Florida State, and North Carolina have not been able to have meaningful conversations. They have not been able to have first-party conversations. Go on, Tristan. Thanks for your patience.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying. So they are having what I guess you would call informal conversations between
very, very informal, and it's not happening every day. Florida State knows that they would be on the candidates list for the Big Ten, and they would know that they're on at some point be on the candidates list for the SEC. But they're not trading documents. They're not trading digital information. They're not doing any of that.
Right. Yeah. There's no. They would never leave a paper trail. Obviously.
No, they're not doing
right.
any of that stuff, and that's stuff that is serious, and they would have to do when the time comes.
I'm of the opinion that the way these things go is they have non-official people, intermediaries, who are connected enough. Like, for example, a big money donor or someone along those lines. They don't officially work for the university, but that person can go and is trusted enough to talk to someone.
You are correct.
Okay, so
you are correct, and that's happened. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was going to try and present is my opinion of what has happened, is that those people have had conversations.
But there's no standing offer. There's no commitment. There's none of that stuff. Right.
From a person I trust who I think does know what's going on, within just a couple of weeks of the Oklahoma and Texas news breaking that they were going to move to the SEC, 3 ACC schools sent these unofficial intermediaries to Birmingham. So in my opinion, and Greg, I'm certain, common sense tells you that they're going to do the same thing with the Big Ten, right? They're going to do the same thing and figure out, get the ball rolling and trying to figure out which of those two conferences would be the best landing spot.
Yes. Has the ACC schools called the Big Ten? Yeah, you're absolutely right. The moment that Oklahoma and Texas news broke, even though the ACC schools were under grant of rights in 2036, they called the Big Ten and the SEC.
Right.
No question about it. But we're talking, there's no standing offers, no applications, no digital documentation. None of that is happening. And it didn't happen when the ACC called the SEC, just to check it out, what's going on, what's your plans, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I think we're on the same page on that, and I just wanted to make sure that I understood where you were coming from.
Yeah.
So, all right, Greg, that's all I had. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work, and I'll talk to you later.
You got it. Appreciate it, Tristan. Thanks for the call.
All right. Bye-bye.
I've had people DM me and saying, well, then you must not think that Florida State is telling the truth. You must not think that that the Big Ten doesn't have interest in Florida State. No, it's the opposite. I think the Big Ten has extreme interest in Florida State. I happen to think that SEC has some interest in Florida State. I believe that Florida State is telling the truth. I believe Clemson is telling the truth. They cannot have meaningful conversations. That is part of their pleadings in the court. And it didn't surprise me that they put it there. It's just not, there is no standard. We've still got people, we got a whole group of people out there saying everything's been decided on, the numbers have been discussed, everybody knows the figures, there's a standing offer, Florida State just has to be in a position to accept. No, there's a lot of things going on, but none of that is going on. Not at this point. Thank you, Donnie McNerney. I appreciate your incredible generosity once again. Mr. Buckeye Donnie McNerney. I've got a Donnie in my family, an Irishman as well. Thanks, Greg. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Donnie, for your super chat, for your generosity, helping us keep the lights on. Thank you so very much. Phone lines open, 763-260-1333, 763-260-1333. Let me see if I've gotten any more good information from the PATC community. Thanks for the for that article. Phil Steele's magazine. If you're interested in Phil Steele, I get it every year. Phil Steele's college football magazine. The magazine goes to press on June 5th. June 5th. Now, I have worked in commercial print in my adult life. Commercial print, that's my employment. I would have loved to have been able to be the manager of this Phil Steele's magazine. I would have been loved to be the account manager of this one.
Call from
Steve-O.
Bevo?
Steve-O.
Steve-O, thank you for calling, Steve-O. I do appreciate it. The floor is yours.
Hey, I've been doing a little thinking on G5, and the six that you named from the Mountain West, possibly with the Pac-2, the one I really wonder about, Air Force. Mm-hmm. What are you hearing as far as Air Force? It just seems sort of odd.
Why? Well, because I happen to think Air Force is on. Now, this is some speculation, okay? Haven't had really any meaningful talks on why Air Force is on there. I've had long discussions on some other of the schools. I think Arizona State is on the far. They're the farthest away from the center of the stage. But I think they're on the stage, and I think some of it has to do with.
Did you say Arizona State?
No, I'm sorry, Air Force. Air Force. Okay. I might have said Arizona State. I'm sorry. Air Force is the furthest one from the center of the stage, and I think possibly some of it has to do why they're on the stage is I believe Oregon State, Washington State is going to try to take 2 to 4 AAC schools. One of them being Navy. I think that is what they're going for. So Air Force, Colorado State in the state of Colorado, 2 schools in California, and Boise State. That is considered the top 6 brands, value brands in the Mountain West, and you need 8 teams to be a conference when it comes to the College Football Playoff Manager Committee. You got to be an 8-team conference to qualify your champion to potentially be one of the top 5 rated champions to get an automatic berth in the expanded playoffs. But I haven't had really any long discussions other than that on Air Force, on why they're on the stage. But I think that's one of the reasons why.
Now, I don't remember when Army joined the AAC.
Mm-hmm.
Did they go in as football only or all sports?
I don't know, but they did not do well. I know that, right?
Because Navy's just football only and Wichita State's the other stuff. And I didn't know if Army was the same situation or they joined everything. That's I didn't pay attention to that, I guess.
Well, Army is joining the American Athletic Conference, the AAC.
Right? But
Yeah.
is it just football?
Yeah, it's just football only.
Okay, so their AAC is going with an odd number 13 of the rest of the sports, I guess.
Well, they have Wichita State, right?
Well, they balanced out Navy.
Huh? Yeah.
Wichita State balanced out Navy, so nobody's right now is balancing out
That's
for Army.
okay. I'll have to take a look at it. I don't. You're probably correct on that.
Okay. All right, so Immaculate sort of answered this for me a little bit, but I thought I'd get your take on it. What do you think on the G5 as far as paying players?
I think they're gonna pay players. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's gonna be. They're definitely gonna be paying players. They're not gonna go to that $20 million cap, but they're gonna have their own little. They're gonna have their own little budget. I don't know how big it's gonna be. Some of them are gonna be bigger. The Liberty's paying. The Liberty's gonna have a huge money for their players in football, at
Right.
least. Right?
Okay.
So
what about the other sports? Paying other players for other sports?
Well, if it's less likely, but
Soccer? I mean, tennis?
Western Michigan when it comes to hockey. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be like a power conference payroll, but they're going to have a payroll. I think most of them, if not all.
Okay, even for the other sports, even women's sports.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know, sir. Every one of these athletic departments are going to have to make their own individual decisions. And we're not going to really know what the Title IX implications are. According to the reports that we've seen over the last week, we don't know what the implications to Title IX are until we get another court case, right? A ruling on it, on the effect of it. That's the reporting that we're getting from Ross Dellinger. So I look, I don't know how, there's going to be, in my opinion, and I could be completely wrong, but I think there's going to be large variances on how these schools handle this, their salary payroll. Whatever they're dealing, like 10 million, 5 million, 15 million, and what they decide, how they decide to spend on it. Nebraska, out of the Big Ten. I mean, how important is that women's volleyball program to them?
Right.
Are they going to be spending more on their women's volleyball than other Big Ten schools? Probably. Probably. Well, that means there's going to be a little less spent on other Olympics, not football, basketball sport, right? The Minnesota Golden Gophers are going to be spending more money on their hockey program than anybody else in the country. So that means they're going to have less money to spend on the basketball program, right? That's what I'm saying. I think this is one of the incredible, fascinating parts about all this. These schools are going to be making decisions based upon their success rate in certain sports. And I think, and if none of them is going to be the exact same, and the G5, I think are going to be the same thing, but on a much lower scale, right? A lot of their student athletes aren't going to get paid, probably, but some of them probably are, I would think.
I just don't know how they get away with not paying the gals, and with Title IX and everything. They're going to have to be prepared to pay all sports.
Well, they may not be able to get away with it. We don't know yet.
What do you think about this talk of getting rid of walk-ons?
I'm guessing it's probably going to happen.
You think they'll stick with 85 scholarships or go to 90 or?
I don't know. They're at the we're going to find out quickly here. We're going to find out Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Great question. I think that at one report was like 85 to 95 scholarships, right? But some reports are saying no, 85 scholarships. I don't know. What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, if they stick with 85, a lot of those walk-ons would be good players in G5.
Yeah. Yes.
Where they get a scholarship.
Yes, and that is, and I'm having a very difficult time trying to express myself on this. I think the big big if, but if we're coming out of this week, and let's just pretend that there is an 85 scholarship limit with no walk-ons. This is great news for every school that is not Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. They're not the top 12 to 15 football brands when it comes to brand resources, because they can only fill up some. The rest of the players are going to trickle on to the rest of us, right? Even more than it is now. So in one regard, yes, the richer is getting richer. But on the other hand, if they can't spend it on more scholarships and to bust that scholarship limit to 105, if it stays at 85, that's good news for the rest of us. And I got a feeling, I don't know this for sure, but I got a feeling, remember, they need enough votes from everybody, not just within the SEC, not just in the Big Ten. They need to get enough votes scattered through all these different tiers of resources to agree for the settlement on this class action lawsuit with 7,000 former student athletes, and to get enough votes. I think the SEC and the Big Ten might have needed to bend the knee on the question of how many scholarships on football. Like this was. Go ahead.
One idea I had is allowing no red shirts with 5 years of eligibility, and freshmen could play a lot of special teams. To say you got 5 years, you could play 5 years, and no red shirts.
I haven't heard any of those reports, but I'm assume it's possible, but I don't know. It's interesting thought.
All right. Always good talking to you, Greg.
You got it. I appreciate it. Call again, sir.
All right, bye.
You got it. Great call. great call, great questions, and I don't know the answers. But we're going to find out the answers. We're going to find out the answers starting, I think, tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, and definitely Thursday. We're going to find out the final settlement on this deal. And we're going to be waking up one of these mornings to a new world in college sports in what we focus on, college football. It's going to take a while for us to grasp the implications, the ripple effect throughout everything. These budgets, how much you pay your coach. It's going to be fascinating to watch. It's just going to be incredible. And we don't know we can't grasp all the implications. We don't know how the courts are going to rule in the future. We don't know if the Congress is going to help out college football, college sports on the antitrust issues, to carve out an exemption, to codify what the football world, college sports is doing. We don't know if Congress is going to be stepping in. I happen to think they won't. Some people think they will. And so, anyways, stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button, open up your notifications, smash the like button if you've enjoyed our content today, Monday, May 20th. We're gonna close it up. We've been on the air for almost 2 hours and 30 minutes, and we are going to be on the air a lot this week. This is going to be a very busy week. Keep your head on a swivel. If we get a major breaking news on the settlement tomorrow morning, we're going to be going live. We will be going live tomorrow morning. No questions asked. So keep your head on a swivel for the entire week. Make sure you're subscribed and make sure you have your notifications on. Follow us at Flug Empire on X because we give you the heads up when we're coming on live next. This is a very important week. Very important week. The biggest decisions are going to be made this week. So buckle up, brace for impact. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, until next time, and next time is just right around the corner. Please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.